Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Ironheart and quite a bit of gameplay of Ironheart as well. Ever since she arrived in the contest, I had love and hate relationship with this champion because, well, number one, I didn't particularly care about the character in comics or MCU. Number two, she was always the best bad champion or the worst good champion, to put my feelings towards her. She did a ton of useful things, but she was fairly meh at them. I did get her quite early as a 7-star and duped her, and therefore I was asked to take her to rank 2 a while back when she came out for Alliance Wars. And she did answer a lot of fights where there were basically no other good counters or very few good counters. But it always felt like such a massive problem using her because something always went wrong. Most of her utility is conditional to you having a tracking debuff, to you having tracking passive, which means you need to keep 5 dots on the opponent, or it was conditional on you having the armor buff, and effectively you had to work quite hard for the utilities other champions just had. For instance, you want to parry non-contact attacks, you need to have the tracking passive on opponent, 5 debuffs. And then there's Photon, who can just parry non-contacts. So why work harder, right? And there's Angela and a bunch of other champions. And similar with her ability to bypass miss. You need to have the 5 debuffs on. For her immunities, which are useful, for instance, reverse control is increasingly more useful. But again, in order to access that, your armor up has to be active. And again, everything she does is kind of conditional. And then the big problem was that her playstyle forced you to be effectively aggressive if you wanted to have even a bit of decent damage. Because in order to have your debuffs stick longer, you needed and wanted to spam your level 1, which pauses them, and your level 2 is the big cash out. But in more complex fights, you could never really cash out because you kind of had a relatively tricky time keeping your debuffs. And it just didn't seem to fully click for me with the champion. But as it turns out, she was actually bugged. And instead of decreasing your opponent's resistances with her level 1, she ended up increasing opponent's resistances. So she did significantly less damage with the level 1s especially than she was meant to. And whilst this positively obviously impacts her damage output overall, it especially positively impacts her damage output in more of those complex fights where you need to spam the level 1. Which actually makes me wonder, when Kabam said she's fine as she is, were they aware of this bug? Balance update? This is a topic for a video actually. So I'm not going to talk much more on that. But there we go. Now, let's take a look at Ironheart in action. So effectively, her rotations basically are do as many medium combos as possible. You can also go for light hits. Light hits have a chance to give you armor up buffs, which will still give you a bigger burst on level 2. But ideally, you want to focus on as many medium hits as you can, and also dex as much. Well, not as much as possible, but at least once in between every special attack you throw. And then use your level 1 to pause your debuffs, as we can see here, and you get your vulnerability and you get your pause, and you do want to be as aggressive as possible. Dex again to apply more debuffs, and here pause them again. So far I have used 2 level 1s, and at this point I'm going to go for my level 2, and we can see that Middle Soldier's damage, well, health is ticking away quite nice. So this is a rank 2 Ironheart, and I do not have the right relic on for her, just FYI. You would probably want to use Sentinel relic on her, which I might. But there we go. A nice level 2 and a big cash out. That's quite a lot of damage. And that's quite fast. For a rank 2 7-star champion, 56 seconds, under a minute. That is not slow. As comparison, I'm going to be using a rank 2 7-star Rocket Raccoon, who is considered to be a relatively nukey and quite fast type of champion, right? And let's see how he compares. So, Rocket Raccoon, again, is not the highest damage output champion, but he's definitely not considered to be a slouch. And this is, somewhat appropriate health pool as well. It's not like this is a long form content fight. And here we go. We get the first level 2 dropped. Nice 69k crit as well. And he's at 60-some% health. So now I'm going to rush up to my second level 2. And that would effectively be the length of the fight that I did with Ironheart for the most part. And in this case, I'm actually not baiting out opponent's special attacks as well. Had I had to do that, it could be a bit more troublesome, a bit slower. There we go, second level 2, nice 70-some K crit, and Winter Soldier's still alive. And this is effectively 4 power bars used. Same as with Ironheart. Now I'm going to drop my level 1, and he's just barely alive, but basically he's dead. And Ironheart's damage is, well, more. Ironheart was faster than Rocket Raccoon, so now the damage is definitely legitimate. Now I did test it out in Labyrinth of Legends, and again, it wasn't anything superbly impressive for the most part. She did the fight fine, but I'm not going to show it there. What I do want to show you is the reason why I actually kind of want to rank up my Ironheart now, more and more. And that is the amount of matchups she takes. She might not be the fastest or the easiest to use in all of these matchups, but it is a ridiculous variety. So now we're going to start with Arnim Zola. The key point for Arnim Zola is, well, number one, you want to be able to parry projectiles in order to be able to heavy punish him as much as possible. And number two, you do not want to rely on big special attack damage, which this kind of does. Because you're applying your debuffs with your basic hits and dex, at least most of the time, and then you're keeping them paused, and everything else is well in order. You can just bait out his special attacks, and you can easily parry him whenever you want. You can drop your heavy, you reduce his combat power rate, which kind of counters the energizer there, and again, as long as you keep dexing, you keep applying more debuffs, and he's going down. Now, obviously, this fight is taking a while because I'm using unranked 3-star against, I believe, a rank 2 5-star, but I just didn't have a different Arnim Zola at the moment. But the point still stands. And this should be a relatively decent fight length fight. I would actually love to see this matchup in Battlegrounds as well. But here we can definitely see that she's, tackling the fight very, very well. I'm using a very low PI champion, and I'm hardly taking any damage, and if I do take any damage, really, it's just cheap parry damage and stuff. So there we go. I actually do end up finishing this. Okay, let's just go till the end there. But yeah, I have not once had any major issue in this fight. I consistently can get my parries, my heavies off, and I'm not even using relic here. And I am doing everything I'm supposed to do. I do not need to rely on a big special attack damage as well. So I'm just chugging along there without much of an issue. At some point, maybe I should have baited out the level 2, but that would put a dot on me, dot passive. But either way, that worked fine. Now we're going to be taking a look at Bullseye fight, because not too many people remember that she actually can do Bullseye quite well. Again, she's not going to be the fastest Bullseye counter, but she's going to be quite solid because she doesn't take the bleed damage. As long as you have tracking passive on the Bullseye, you will take no bleed damage from Bullseye's level 1 because his ability accuracy is reduced by 100%. And then with your level 1, you obviously pause it. At some point you can throw in a heavy attack to reduce Bullseye's combat power rate, so you have to bait out less level 1s, and there we go. We can relatively comfortably stack up debuffs, pause everything, and we're just about fine. Again, she wouldn't be the Bullseye nuke, which is just another champion that can do Bullseye quite well. Moving forward, another somewhat important matchup would be Enchantress. And I know many of you would think is like, if you go full on aggressive, I would struggle because I would have armor or buffs expiring constantly. But you can prevent that by largely throwing your mediums. So just use medium on medium like medium combos. And then you have a tracking debuff. Number one cool thing I wanted to show here is that you also reduce opponent's ability accuracy when they are striking your block. So even if you do not dex the level 1, you'll not get those dots on you. And then number 2, you bypass the miss mechanic. And then you do have your suppression, which again makes fighting Enchantress easier because she has less specials to throw. And for most part, you're just doing a very solid job taking down that Enchantress. So again, she wouldn't be the nuke for Enchantress, but she has elements in her kit that allow her to do Enchantress quite well. Somebody like Thing here, and this is a SIG 200 Thing, and again, she's quite good for the Thing matchup, because if you do spam your level 1s, you do not do any big yellow numbers, and you do significant amount of your damage via the dot effect, and that means that you basically never trigger protection. So again, while she wouldn't be the crossbones or something to nuke down the Thing, but when you do draft her, she would be a legitimate option for the Thing without just about any issues here, which is somewhat surprising to me, but still it works great. But there's only one major science defender, right? And that's Photon. And it turns out she's quite good against Photon too. Again, not crossbones level of nuke, but very good, because once you get your initial openings in, and you get the debuffs, and you get your tracking, several of the things will happen. Number one, you can parry her, and you can punish her easily, because again, tracking, bypass miss, so that's nice. Number two, when awakened, she does have her bulwark, so her block proficiency is increased as well as her armor up, so she's kind of tanky, so you can take the specials on block when need be. Number three, even like right now, as we can see, you can just block everything and there is not that big of amount of damage, and you can manage the fight quite well. So I'm just gonna tank another special in the block, take a bit of chip damage. I'd say she does it better than Patriot would, just about better. And it's a fairly easy controlled fight. You don't have too much to worry about. So again, whilst not the best Photon counter, definitely an effective one. And who did we have here? I did want to showcase this fight with a different pre-fight, but it wouldn't work. Again, somebody like Red Skull, who is extremely tanky, can't parry him and stuff like that. But Ironheart will do just fine. One issue here is that I'm using Incinerates, and I would want to use Ruptures, same as with Photon, by the way, because Photon has high energy resistance, and Red Skull is gaining energy resistance for each of his armor ups. But here, you can see that still can do quite well. Again, because she doesn't rely on the hit damage, especially when you're using your level 1 strategy, which again now has become significantly more effective and fast than it used to be. She can do a ton of tricky matchups like that because of her dots, basically. And whilst there's not anything, you know, exactly countering Red Skull's abilities, she does it quite well. In between her increased chunkiness to bait out opponents, you know, heavy ease attacks or your openings when you can't have access to parry. In between the manner she does damage, she just kind of manages it all. And now moving forward, and again, it would be faster with Ruptures too. And somebody like Shuri, I actually wanted to showcase Arcade Fight, but I can't unless I can switch Ruptures. So there we go. But instead of Arcade, I chose to go with Shuri. And somebody like Shuri, again, is just about perfect, because as soon as you get your tracking on, you can parry her like normal. You can bypass miss if she does throw the attack. You can take those specials on the block, and she's quite good. So I kind of like Ironheart now. I genuinely think she's legit. That I messed up in the end, but she's gonna die immediately. But there we go. I believe that was the last clip that I recorded. So yeah, Ironheart is a champion that I definitely want to take to rank 3 at this point. And actually I might do it sooner than I thought. I thought to finish up this meta, I want to rank 3 Rintra and Shang-Chi. I think I might just rank up Ironheart genuinely, because I started liking the champion a lot. Let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we